So fewer showers, a better chance of some sunshine.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good evening, I'm Johnny Ratner. The M9 is partly blocked northbound from junction 10 towards the A9 as you head north of Stirling at the scene of an accident, and there are M62 in West Yorkshire down to one lane westbound at the Huddersfield exit junction 23. Take about an hour and a half in those queues all the way back to Chain Bar south of Bradford. It's all down to an accident in the two left lanes. On the M42 in Warwickshire, the two inside lanes are shut northbound just after the M6 interchange. 4 cars and a van were involved in that accident, causing queues back towards Birmingham. Still really slow on the M1 both ways, junction 16 to 15A near Northampton due to an earlier incident, and on the Surrey stretch of the M25, the inside lanes closed clockwise just before 6 at Godstone. A car's broken down in the roadworks, and in East London, Chapel Road at Ilford remains shut following an accident in the one-way system. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
We're making this summer funner with 3 incredible prizes to be won. First, a fantastic £15,000 in tax-free cash that you can spend on anything you like. Next, there's the latest iPhone 15 with a brand new set of Apple AirPods. And finally, £500 to spend at the UK attraction of your choice. The summer fun could be on us. For another chance to win the iPhone, treats and £15,000 cash, text prize to 63232. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or post your name and number to GB06 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 28th of June. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
This Saturday, GB News invites you to witness the pageantry, the tradition and the unity. Join Ellie Costello and me, Andrew Pearce, in a celebration of His Majesty the King's official birthday. Trooping the Colour. Saturday at 10 a.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, good evening. It's 6 o'clock. This is Jeeves & Co. with me, Emily Carver, standing in. Now, we have some breaking news to start the show. I'm going to take it over to GB News Royal Correspondent Cameron Walker, who has an update for us.
Thanks, Emily. Yes, Kensington Palace has been in touch, and they can confirm the Princess of Wales is expected to attend Trooping the Colour tomorrow, the King's birthday parade, alongside the rest of the royal family. Now, the Princess of Wales has written a very open and honest and personal letter to the nation, and I'm going to read it out on her behalf. It reads, "I have been blown away by all the kind messages of support and encouragement over the last couple of months. It really has made the world of difference to William and me, and has helped us both through some of the harder times. I am making good progress, but as anyone going through chemotherapy will know, there are good days and bad days. On those bad days, you feel weak, tired, and you have to give in to your body resting. But on the good days, when you feel stronger, you want to make the most of feeling well. My treatment is ongoing and will be for a few more months. On the days I feel well enough, it is a joy to engage with school life, spend personal time on the things that give me energy and positivity, as well as starting to do a little work from home. I'm looking forward to attending the King's birthday parade this weekend with my family and hopes to join a few public engagements over the summer. but equally knowing I am not out of the woods yet. I'm learning how to be patient, especially with uncertainty, taking each day as it comes, listening to my body, and allowing myself to take this much-needed time to heal. Thank you so much for your continued understanding, and to all of you who have so bravely shared your stories with me. A letter from Her Royal Highness, the Princess of Wales. Kensington Palace has also released this new photograph, which you could just see just then on your screen. It was taken earlier this week in the grounds of Windsor Castle. Hopefully we can get it back up for you. There we go. By the photographer Matt Porteous, an independent photographer there. It shows the princess, for those of you listening on the radio, stood by a lake on the Windsor estate, kind of propped up, leaning against the tree. She's wearing jeans and a casual blazer and looking up, I suppose, towards the sky, isn't she, Emily? But this is clearly very good news. I think it's very positive. We should see this as a very positive step, that we're going to see the princess on the official public engagement, the first time since Christmas Day last year that we've officially seen her on a public engagement. But a note of caution, this is not the princess returning to a full schedule of public engagements. Kensington Palace always said when she was diagnosed with cancer that she may choose to attend certain engagements as and when she feels up to it. And as she said in her letter, it has good days and bad days. But in terms of what we're expecting tomorrow, it's not just a balcony appearance, which clearly has been speculated about. She is expected to be riding in a carriage alongside her 3 children, Prince George, Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis. She will be watching the King's Birthday Parade from the Wellington office at Horse Guards Parade, and she will then appear on the balcony. So very good news indeed.
Yes, this is very good news. An absolutely beautiful photo that they've shared with us, the palace, and a very heartfelt message. Speaking of the bad days she's had, speaking of the good days she's had, speaking of all the messages that people have written her and shared her, people who are experiencing the same at this very moment.
Yeah, and I understand Buckingham Palace and Kensington Palace have received literally thousands of letters and messages from all over the world wishing the princess all the best. And a number of people, I'm told, have written to the princess about their own personal experiences of cancer, and I'm told she's incredibly touched by those messages, and she alluded to that in the last line of her letter, saying thank you so much for those who have bravely shared your stories with me. We have also heard in the last few minutes from a spokesperson from His Majesty the King at Buckingham Palace as well. I will just get that statement
we have it here actually, Cameron, if you want to read it.
There we go. Oh, perfect. So His Majesty is delighted that the princess is able to attend tomorrow's events and is much looking forward to all elements of the day. Now, of course, the King's Birthday Parade, funnily enough, is all about the King, but I think this year this shows the really good relationship between the Princess of Wales and His Majesty the King. I understand the Princess has spoken to the King about all of this as well, and he's clearly given his blessing, I think, for the Princess to choose trooping the colour as the first time we're going to see her in public. And although the weather looks, let's say, abysmal, the weather forecast tomorrow, I think there's going to be lots of cheers up the Mall and by Buckingham Palace.
Well, Cameron, that's one of the points here, isn't it? Not just a wonderful message from the Princess of Wales herself, written herself to share with the nation, but this will be very exciting for a lot of royal fans, a lot of British people who've been deeply worried, been so worried about the Princess of Wales. As you said, it's been months and months since we've seen her in a public engagement. Yeah, it absolutely has, and the social media speculation has just been appalling, to be honest.
Well, it's been really ramping up, and I think this hopefully is going to put a lot of these horrible conspiracy theories to bed when we see the Princess of Wales tomorrow in central London in front of thousands of people. I do understand that 10 Downing Street and the Cabinet Office, as well as the leaders of the opposition, have all been informed about the Princess's decision far in advance. And the Princess, of course, is Colonel of the Irish Guards, and tomorrow it is the Irish Guards who will be trooping the colour on Horse Guards Parade. But she's not going to be attending, perhaps, as a Colonel of the Irish Guards in this instance, because she's going to be in the office, former office of the Duke of Wellington. Instead, it's going to be Lieutenant General James Bucknell who will be taking the salute on her behalf. So it's baby steps back to royal duties, but not a full return to public life.
But this this is a big step, and royal fans, they'll be looking forward to seeing that moment on the balcony. That moment, watching the RAF fly past overhead, that is what everyone will be looking for. That is where we get those wonderful photographs.
Absolutely. It's the yearly tradition. It's the staple, perhaps, of the royal calendar, where you see kind of who's in and who's out in terms of members of the royal family and how favourable they are with the monarch, which is why over the last few years it's just been working members of the royal family on the balcony. And I think if the princess hadn't been there tomorrow because of her health, it would have been quite upsetting, I think, perhaps to a lot of people. But the fact that the princess is expected to be on the balcony with her children, with Prince William, with the King, Queen, Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh and the rest of the working royals, I think it's going to be a very solid, stable image, a symbol of the strength of the British monarchy and its future as well with the different generations.
Absolutely. And you know what, Cameron? With all this election campaigning going on, the general election, politics, 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 non-stop, this is a fantastic piece of news. We're going to be seeing Princess Catherine tomorrow. She'll be taking part in Trooping the Colour. We'll see her on the balcony. So joining us now to discuss this further, to get his reaction, is former BBC royal correspondent Michael Cole. Michael, wonderful news to start the weekend.
Yes, good evening, Emily. Good evening, Cameron. Excellent news. In fact, better than might have been expected. I was fully prepared for her perhaps to make a surprise appearance on the balcony, but it's much better than that. She'll be in the carriage and she'll witness the whole Sovereign's parade. And it's good, Emily, on three counts. As Cameron has said, Catherine is the colonel of the Irish Guards, and the 2nd Battalion of the Irish Guards will be trooping their colour tomorrow. Secondly, it will reassure the British public, who have been rightly concerned about her and have written, as you've said, in their hundreds and thousands to Buckingham Palace and Kensington Palace, expressing their concern. And thirdly, it scotches all the vile, mad, crazy rumours which have swirled around the world. We will not dignify them by repeating them or hinting about them on this excellent channel. But it does give the resounding answer. And you know what, Emily? She can do it all without saying a word. She doesn't have to speak. Her presence will say everything. She's made it clear in this excellent message she's written herself. Of course she's written it herself. She said she was blown away. Well, that's hardly royal language, but it's not something that everybody understands. She's blown away by the public reaction, and she's not out of the woods. But from that wonderful photograph of her standing against an ivy-clad oak tree, it looked like that, an oak tree to me. I mean, she looks much better than some of these terrible stories would have led you to believe. So, 3 cheers. It's going to be a great occasion tomorrow. It's one of the standout royal events of the year. And I'm sure the King, who always talked about my dearest daughter-in-law, will be delighted that she's there with her 3 children. So cheers all round. Great news to start a lovely weekend. And here's the King saying how delighted he is. And I'm quite sure we're delighted for him and all the members of the royal family, particularly Prince William, who I'm sure has found the last.
Yes, there we go from Buckingham Palace. His Majesty is delighted that the Princess of Wales will be there for the event. Michael, just quickly, should we read anything into the fact that oh, Michael's gone. OK, Cameron, the picture outside in nature, what does that tell us? Does that tell us anything?
Well, I think she enjoys nature, doesn't she? She's all about mental well-being. The Princess of Wales really champions mental health, and she does champion particularly early years and young people and the importance of getting outdoors. I think it was just a lovely spot, perhaps, a private spot for the photograph on the Windsor estate. Of course, she's been asking for privacy throughout all of this time, having her cancer diagnosis and her preventative chemotherapy. Michael mentioned there how the Prince must be feeling. I can tell you how the Prince is feeling, actually, because the spokesperson for Kensington Palace has said the Prince is pleased to see the Princess starting to engage with work and projects that are important to her. He will continue to focus his time on supporting his wife and children while continuing to undertake his public duties. He, of course, will also be at Trooping the Colour as Colonel of the Welsh Guards. He'll be riding a horse. The Princess...
Yes, he'll be horseback.
He will be on horseback as Colonel of the Welsh Guards. I'll let you know tomorrow, if you watch GB News and our Trooping the Colour special, which horse he's riding, but we don't have that information yet. But the Princess has started doing little bits of work at home in Windsor. So she's been holding meetings with her officials team when she feels able to, and she's also been being briefed on her various projects, early years, the Royal Foundation and so on. So she hasn't perhaps gone on public engagements, but she is starting to do work as and when she feels able to. But like I said, it's not a full return to public duties yet.
Wonderful. Well, joining us now is royal commentator Richard Fitzwilliams. Richard, this wonderful personal message from the Princess of Wales. Give us your reaction.
Well, I was absolutely thrilled, and I think that this is something that's wonderful, that's in fact going to bring a lot of joy, and there's absolutely no question. If you look at that photograph, I was fascinated by her pose, you know, because it's the tilt of the head. You see the way she's looking, and you see somebody who's got a certain inner strength, a resilience, and I think that is so important, because what we see in the letter, and I mean, I thought it was deeply moving. I felt her video message towards the end of March was, in fact, the most sensitive and the most moving of its kind ever made by a public figure in Britain. And I think this is showing is somebody who realizes that by spreading the word of how difficult it is, because that letter, it makes it quite a tough read, she can also do a great deal of good. Having said that, we absolutely rejoice in this because it's wonderful news. I was hoping she'd be on the balcony. I didn't think she'd be able to make the parade, but now we know differently.
Well, it's fantastic, and I must say that we're getting a lot of messages in from our viewers. Mary says, wonderful news. The Princess of Wales is feeling up to attending Trooping the Colour. I hope she doesn't push herself too much to be involved with too many engagements over the summer. The Palace haven't specified which event she'll be taking part in, but we do know she'll be there tomorrow. Lisa says, how brave and wonderful. Trudy asks, I wonder what outfit she'll be wearing. And Trudy, I must admit, I was thinking the very same. Richard, what colour do you suspect?
I suspect it might well have something to do, as Colonel of the Irish Guards, with Ireland. So, I mean, would one have shamrock green, or would indeed the Order of St. Patrick's, could it be blue? That's where my bets will lie, the two colours. But what also I think very significant is that I think she will look, as she always has, absolute perfection. And what's so significant, of course, is that these photographs and the footage will go wide. I mean, this will be, the monarchy has been very, very severely weakened by the serious illness, as we all know, of King Charles and the Princess of Wales. This, we've seen how the king has attended so many engagements. I mean, there's tremendously good news, and also it
absolutely.
Cachet to the parade. That's, you know, this really will make, it's the feeling of joy. She talked in that video message of how joyous her public life was to her, and tomorrow may it be the start of a great deal more.
Yes, and you know what, Richard, I think we need a bit of joy in this country every now and again, and this is something that can unite most of us in our nation. Cameron Walker, I'm going to bring you back in just to repeat the statement, the personal message from the Princess.
Yes, so for those of you who are just tuning in, we have received a statement from the Princess of Wales. She is confirming that she is going to be attending Trooping the Colour tomorrow in London with the rest of the royal family, and she said she hopes to join a few public engagements over the summer as she continues treatments for cancer for a few more months. She said she's making good progress and has good days and bad days, as any cancer patient will tell you, is what she says, adding, I am not out of the woods yet. So it's not a full return to public engagements, I must stress, but this is a very positive sign that she is starting to get back to normal.
And I like the line where she says, I'm learning how to be patient, especially with uncertainty. And that's something I think everyone can empathise with. It's terribly difficult to be patient when there's so much uncertainty, and with health matters, makes it even worse.
Absolutely, and understandably, Kensington Palace are not going into any further details as to exactly what treatment or what the progress is of the Princess of Wales, other than to say she's still continuing preventative chemotherapy. I think when we got the video message from her in March explaining her cancer diagnosis, one of the lines in that was, "It's taken time for me and my family to come to terms with this diagnosis," because she's only in her early 40s.
Very young.
And clearly the whole country was rattling around her as well and was really championing her. So it's just good to see that she's back in action, or will be tomorrow.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Cameron. Now, my panel have been patiently waiting here. We have Paul Scully and Sean Simon with us this evening. Paul, I'll start with you. Now, as I'm sure you're aware, there has been all sorts of speculation over the Princess of Wales' health. Where is she? Why isn't she at ex-public engagement, or why public engagement? This is the news that people have been waiting for. We are going to see her in the flesh tomorrow at the Trooping the Colour.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic news. It does give the lift that you were talking about, because we've got the general election, which is pretty depressing when you hear some of the debates and all the stories they're saying one's more negative than the other. We've got the world situation at the moment in Gaza, Ukraine, etc. And it's just nice to have a bit of good news. And it's also insurance in case the boys don't actually bring the football home.
Well, yes.
Best of luck to Scotland tonight. I was, of course, talking about England. But it's the photo there, I thought, looking up, looking forward was positive. The Prince and Princess came down to the Royal Marsden to open the Oak Cancer Centre there in my former constituency, as I'm not standing again, just a few years ago. Obviously, there's no way she would have known at the time that she's going to need the services of the top consultants in the country just those few months afterwards. So it's great news.
Yes, and Sean, this is the lift. This is a lift for a lot of people in this country who will be watching that engagement tomorrow, wondering. There's been all sorts of speculation about whether she will be there, whether she'll be taking part, what role she'll play, whether we won't see her at all. And now we know the Kensington Palace have told us she will, in fact, be there. She'll be there on the balcony for all to see.
It is fantastic news. You have had a string of celebrity royal experts opining on every level of this. I do not claim to be a royal expert as they are, but I was in America last week at a conference of legal academics, sober technical people, and all they wanted to talk about was the princess and the royal family.
Really?
So it's not even just people here, it's people all over the world will be very interested in this news. Great news.
Oh, absolutely. This is news that travels far beyond the United Kingdom, isn't it, Paul?
Absolutely, and I think she's very professional. By the way, you're asking what colour she's going to be. I suspect she'll be avoiding party colours tomorrow. If she's wearing light blue,
yes.
Then you're talking about reform later on. If she's wearing light blue, then we really do have to worry.
Well, there are so many parties that kind of narrows it down, doesn't it?
Right, look, yeah, absolutely. But look, the royal family is very much what London and the UK are known for. People come to, tourists. When I'm out in Westminster, people are asking where Buckingham Palace is. They're looking at the various palaces, and Palace of Westminster, Buckingham Palace, and they're really excited. This is a big draw for the UK. So to have this kind of good news, that does go around the world.
Well, good stuff. Well, join us tomorrow morning for a very special programme. We've got Andrew Pearce and also Ellie Costello presenting live coverage of Trooping the Colour from 10 a.m. Tomorrow morning here on GB News. We do this stuff so well on this channel, so make sure you tune in from 10 o'clock for that. But next, we're going to shift a little bit back to the politics on Jubes & Co. Can Reform UK keep up the momentum? Nigel Farage was speaking a little earlier today. Can he, run with this momentum? We shall see. Stay tuned.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
The woke be with you these days, not the force be with you. And Star Wars, it was the one thing as a kid that brought me and my brother together pretty close, and I love it with all my heart. But ever since Disney took it over, this diversity, equity and inclusion has run rampant throughout it. And actually we've had the actress from the latest Star Wars spin-off, a series on Disney, actually saying that making white people cry was actually what she wanted to do. Have a listen.
When people watch The Hate U Give, what do you want them to walk away with? Because I know everyone has a slightly different feeling. Well, I mean, white people crying actually was the goal.
Yeah, so that diversity, equity and inclusion running rampant throughout Hollywood and ruining really good franchises. Actually ensuring, apparently, R2-D2, the little robot, you know, that scoots about and gets on the starships and all the rest of it, apparently that could be a lesbian now.
She's half white, this actress. This is what I don't understand. She's half Danish, then half African-American.
I have skin in this game, as you know, with a mixed-race child. Nobody ever sees a mixed-race child as half white. They see them as black.
We used to say that to focus on the colour of someone's skin was rampant racism and therefore we ought to reject it. Now we're saying actually potentially the only thing that we should notice about a person is the colour of their skin.
I don't really think she was actually wanting white people to be sobbing, and it wasn't malicious, but it's just this silly kind of ruination of something that's meant to be entertainment and fun. I wouldn't go as far as to say Star Wars is art. I'm not as
I love some.
It is, you know, excluding people. Yeah. It's actually dividing people. Once again, by the colour of their skin, we are teaching people to not like each other.
The People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled. Lovely.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This Saturday, GB News invites you to witness the pageantry, the tradition and the unity. Join Ellie Costello and me, Andrew Pierce, in a celebration of His Majesty the King's official birthday. Trooping the Colour, Saturday at 10 a.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. This is Jeeves & Co. with me, Emily Carver, this evening. Now keeping me company until 7 o'clock is the former Conservative MP, Paul Scully, and former Labour MP, Sean Simon. Welcome to the show, or welcome back. Now, just a couple of views from you, some of your comments just before we get into the politics. Janet says, how lovely that the Princess will be on the balcony tomorrow. Just the lift that the nation needs right now. Adrian says, very much so, Emily. It will be great for the people to see the Princess back, and good to hear some good news for a change. And Andrew says, what a fantastic picture of Kate. She looks fantastic. We wish her continued good health and great times to come. Yes, she certainly is very photogenic, but also she's looking better, isn't she? She's looking quite a bit better. So this is wonderful news that perhaps we needed. Anyway, to go through today's political events, we're joined now by GB News political editor, Christopher Hope. Christopher, you've been extremely busy. This is the first time I've seen you in person, I think, for a little while, because you've been all over the country on this battle bus, that battle bus. I guess the story of today is reform. Nigel Farage had his press conference. I guess the question that everyone wants to know the answer to is, will their popularity turn into seats?
The answer to that is probably no. Certainly not the number you might expect, given the scale of support for reform at the moment. We spoke earlier on GB News to Martin Baxter from our electoral calculus. He thinks that the numbers are quite extraordinary. If reform gets maybe 30% of the vote, they might get 30 seats, which is, you just expect that kind of level would be hundreds of seats. So I think
So you have to get 30% to get 30 seats. Wow.
That's right. I made a quick note of what you were saying. It was on Martin Daubeny's show. The scale of a challenge for a challenger party who has no idea where the support is. The reason why that is reform is equally supported across the country, whereas the Lib Dems tunnel down into certain areas and build up support in certain key areas.
Tunnel down.
Yes, yes. So that's why. That's, I think, a challenge facing Nigel Farage, maybe facing us all probably as a country on July the 5th, 3 weeks today, is if reform does become the second party in the polls and then wins 6 million votes, as Nigel Farage told me today in that press conference at 1 o'clock, and then gets 2 or 3 or 4 MPs, and then the Tories are third, and they get 20 times that many, maybe 100 MPs, what does that mean about our system? And it might, And how Farage treats that apparent disconnect between voting and seat numbers is his mini Trump moment when he's got to say, do I go all in and say this is not democracy, or do I just try and tunnel my way again into the Tory party and take over that party? He wouldn't deny several times today that he may want to lead the Tory party one day.
Yes, well, and am I right in thinking that Labour, the Labour Party, have previously spoken quite a bit about potentially maybe changing the way we vote and the way the system works? They won't want to do that, though, if they get a super majority, as some are suggesting.
I bring you gifts from my week on the road. The Tory Party manifesto, Lib Dems, Labour. In the Labour manifesto, there's nothing about proportional representation, and why should there be? The party's on set for a three-figure majority. Why on earth would you want to change the rules?
Why would you mess with it?
Well, why would you? We have, of course, certainly, 18 months ago at the Labour conference, when the polls were much tighter, it was all about the deal you do with Lib Dems to be in power, and Lib Dems want proportional representation, as does the Reform UK. We'll hear more from Reform UK on Monday when they unveil their manifesto.
Right.
We get to see it.
A manifesto on Monday from Reform. Sean Simon, let me bring you in on this one. Reform, a threat to the Conservatives, sure. Also a threat to Labour in some seats?
No, not really, no. They're a threat to the Conservatives, and I think what will happen is that the Reform will get probably no seats, maybe one. Nigel will either be the MP in Clacton or he won't be. They obviously will get a significant number of votes. They're not really going to come second, but they'll get a lot of votes. And the Conservative Party, after the election, will be without a leader. And if Nigel joins the Conservative Party and runs to be leader, he will win. And that's the game changer. That's what Reform does. It's not about Reform becoming the second party in British politics. It's about Nigel Farage becoming leader of the Conservative Party, which could be a matter of weeks away.
Paul is shaking his head. Oh, sorry, I'll bring you in then, Christopher. Yes.
So when asked that very question, Sean, he just said boring, boring, boring. He saw that as a kind of Westminster bubble response to his popularity. He believes that Reform UK is the big challenger brand over a 6-year period.
He knows as well as I do that that's not the case and not going to happen. He knows that the Conservative Party's been there forever and it's going to be there forever and remains the opposition. He also knows that it's an almost broken party that will be without any kind of leadership, not just without any leadership, but with no sense of direction, ripe to be taken over and controlled by the very clever and political Nigel Farage.
Is that so, Paul Scully?
No. I mean, the thing is about Nigel Farage, he has done an amazing job in terms of just getting into the zeitgeist of the country, but he is a one-man, front-man, showman kind of a figure, rather than working out how to lead a party. He can build a brand. Is it a threat to us? Yes, it is, because if you look at the JL poll, I think there was the JL Partnerships poll that came out last week, they actually did a flowchart about where the 2019 votes are going, and it actually shows that around half of the votes that are leaving the Conservative Party at the moment are going towards Reform, and about half of them are going the other way, going to Labour and Lib Dems. So if we lurch one way or another, you lose the other lot anyway. So just this thing that's saying there's some panacea by doing a deal with Reform, whether Nigel Farage or not, is not practical.
If you add 18% for Reform against 17 for the Tories in that YouGov poll overnight, you get to 35%,
but I think
which is what Labour are on. So you deal with the problem straight away with that deal. You sort out the right.
No, because you don't hold on to the votes some of the votes that we've got, because you'll have more people drifting off towards the left from that. So that doesn't work. That's not a perfect sum, unfortunately. But I think the point is we do need to have that conversation after the election as to which way we go. But we need to do it in a steady way and take the party with us. He can't just take over the party, by the way, because it doesn't just go straight to the members. The MPs have got to vote, and clearly it depends on which MPs are left. Are they more One Nation Tories who wouldn't vote for Nigel Farage, or are they more ERG and to the right of the party?
And Sean, if Labour do win, and if they win big, that's what the polls are suggesting, at least for now, if they win big, they're going to inherit the same problems that the Conservatives are trying to deal with at the moment. It could be that the honeymoon period, if there is one, is very short.
There they're going to inherit terrible problems, and they have they boxed themselves in before they knew how much they seemed likely to win by. They boxed themselves in terms of taxation, in terms of borrowing, with respect to what they can do. Their ability to fix problems on any major level is going to be incredibly constrained. So yes, the honeymoon will be very, very short, and their approach to that you can see from their election manifesto, which uniquely had no new policy, no new promises. It's never happened before, and you can see that's the beginning of a process of them saying to people, we're not going to be able to do very much. You're going to have to give us time, and you're going to, in brackets, you're going to have to elect us again.
And Paul, one of the difficulties I think the Conservatives have, and do correct me if I'm wrong on this, is I think, depending on who you talk to within the Conservative Party, they think the problem is different.
Yeah.
Why people are going to reform, why people are objecting to the Conservatives. Some think the Conservatives should be adopting more reform policies. For example, all the trust lost when it comes to immigration policy. Others think, oh no, don't go down the populist route. The Conservatives need to find that answer and agree on it.
They do, and clearly they're not going to find that this side of the election. So I think, if Nigel Farage wins Clacton, for example, but they don't win any other seats, then I'm not entirely sure that he gets any short money, and he will be an independent. So he'll be a one-man person.
More than two MPs short money. So a tiny number of votes.
So he will still be, on his own, shouting from the outside. And we've seen that from Caroline Lucas. She had a long time in Parliament, but was only able to have a degree of influence. But the other thing about reform as well, of course, is that Nigel Farage is talking without being in power, without having to come up with workable solutions. So that limits him, but it also gives him the space to be able to pretty well be that showman and say what he wants to be.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be able to do that if he was actually in a position of power.
The thing about Farage is he's great at opposing.
Yeah.
He's not good at maybe governing. He's never governed anything in his life properly, and he's always existed against something else. And I think when we see his policy platform on Monday, that's when both parties will start really tearing into it.
Well, he's certainly put his hat in the ring. Andrew said he'd rather... Andrew's got in touch. He says he'd rather see Farage sparring with Starmer at the dispatch box than Rishi Sunak.
I should quickly talk about what others have been doing today. Very briefly. Ed Davey had a quiet day. Keir Starmer said he's going to be tough on NIMBYs who oppose pylons. He wants to, that's a big issue in Norfolk, I think. I've seen the Shadow Chancellor's been backing their pylons to march across parts of Norfolk, and that's been opposed by community. So one of the big battles over the next 5 years, if Labour win, will be getting Britain building again infrastructure, and that'll be fought. Boris Johnson, column just dropped. He says we are walking into an elective dictatorship, which is a line used in the past to describe a government with a massive majority.
And that's what Sir Geoffrey Cox was saying to me, I think it was yesterday, the one socialist, one-party state. That was his words. Interesting message to put across. We should mention the candidates for the Clacton constituency, because Sean mentioned Clacton, so we must read them out. We've got Jovan Owusu-Napul for the Labour Party, Giles Watling for the Conservative Party, Matthew Bensalem, Liberal Democrats, Nigel Farage, Reform UK, Natasha Osborne, Green Party, Craig Jamieson, Climate Party, Tony Mack, Independent, Tassos Papanastasiou, Heritage Party, and Andrew Pemberton for UKIP. Lots of candidates to choose from in the Clacton constituency. Right, we're going to have more political analysis up next. Stay with us. Keep your views coming in. We'll get to them after this.
Hello again and welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. Further showers are expected over the next 24 hours and beyond, with prolonged rain at times, but also some clear spells in between the downpours. Low pressure is currently stationed to the west-northwest of Scotland, and around that low we've got a gusty wind bringing frequent showers into much of the UK, but also some longer spells of rain. One such area of rain affecting northern Scotland through the evening, and then another band of rain pushing into Northern Ireland, parts of Wales and the southwest during the early hours. So a lively night to come with some heavy rain at times and that gusty wind, but some clear spells as well. And where we've got the clear spells, temperatures dipping into the single figures or even the mid-single figures in some of the cooler spots, for example, central Scotland. But for the north of Scotland, we keep the wet weather going on Saturday morning, particularly for Shetland. Some outbreaks of rain there for Orkney. But for much of the mainland of Scotland, it's dry. Best of the sunshine of the day will be in the morning on Saturday. Thicker cloud into southern Scotland, northern England, and this band of rain just affecting parts of Northern Ireland into the Midlands, the southeast as well. Some heavy downpours before a mix of sunny spells and blustery showers push into South Wales and the southwest of England. That develops more widely across the UK, so really it's a case of bright spells and heavy showers out there on Saturday afternoon. You certainly will need your umbrella at hand if you're heading out, even if it's sunny when you leave the house. But there will be some longer spells of rain, particularly for northwest England, southern Scotland, for example. Even some thunderstorms out there. So an unpleasant day for many places, highs of 17 or 18 Celsius. Sunday starts off a little brighter and drier across England and Wales. Scotland and Northern Ireland sees a band of rain push south. That breaks up to become more of a showery feature into the afternoon. And in between the showers, there will be some sunshine once again. A drying up trend then into Monday and Tuesday with fewer showers and a better chance of some sunshine.
The latest GB News travel.
Good evening, I'm Johnny Ratner. Long delays continue heading north of Stirling up the M9. The motorway is partly blocked. Junction 10 towards the A9 at Dunblane at the scene of an accident. Still really slow on the M62 westbound in West Yorkshire after an early crash at 23 at Huddersfield. And the M42 is crawling northbound. It's the left lane that's shut just after the M6 interchange following an accident involving 4 cars and a van. They're accused back to the Solihull bypass as a result. Into East London, Chapel Road, the A118, that's still closed in the one-way system following a serious accident. And in Kent, St George's Avenue at Sheerness remains shut after a fire broke out in a building. On to London Overground. Trains are suspended Richmond to Gunnersbury following problems with the signals at Richmond. District Line trains can't run Turnham Green to Richmond as a result. And no Piccadilly Line Acton Town to Uxbridge. Problems with the signals at Sudbury Hill. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
OK, welcome back to Jeeves & Co. It's 6:38 on your Friday evening. Lots of you getting in touch about the conversation we were just having. Cliff has taken issue with you, Sean. He says you're too confident. Almost arrogant that reform are not a threat. He says, just wait and see. Morag says, how do you know Farage wouldn't be any good at leading? Chopper, yes. Christopher Hope said perhaps he's better at, making these big speeches, but not leading. Who knows? And Cuzzy says, 2 weeks in politics is a long time. The Tories are going to get crushed. So there you go. And John has mentioned that the UK is going left when the United States and all of Europe are going right, which will make us the odd ones out. That is an interesting point, actually. How will Keir Starmer, as potential Prime Minister of this country, how will he get along with all these right-wing leaders in Europe? Although we don't know the result of the US election, of course. But we're going to move on to something a bit more fun, perhaps, because it's the Euros kicking off this evening. And people have been pointing out the price of beer in this country is absolutely obscene. And guess why? Because of beer duty, because it is taxed so much. Paul, did you know that the beer duty on pints in this country is 54.2p? Compare that to Spain, 4.8p. So do the maths. It's a lot of tax we're paying on a pint.
That is a lot of tax. And actually, if I know, Sean, you don't drink. If you have no alcohol or low alcohol lager, the price difference isn't that different. It's not 50% different, is it? It probably ought to be. But no, I was the hospitality minister during COVID. I brought together the hospitality industry to try and co-create solutions together for the not just to bounce back from COVID, but actually have pubs and hospitality sector really start to thrive. And so much of that is about the tax that businesses have to pay, whether it's the business rates on the pubs. Often they're part of a chain, and so they don't get the small business relief, or duty on beer as well. We want to make sure that pubs. I'm in London, so actually, if I don't want any pub to close, but there'll always be another one within a few hundred yards. If you're in a rural village or something like that, the pub still is the hub of that village, and so we've got to protect pubs, and we can do it through duty on beer.
Is there a sadder sight than seeing a pub that's been there for decades, if not centuries, boarded up.
No.
Why can't the government cut these taxes? I mean, look at this. France, it's only 19p. Netherlands, 18. Italy, 17. Austria, 11. Slovakia, 8. Romania, 5.
Well, the worst thing is
why are we so special that we need to put...
The worst thing is, Emily, actually, we have cut the beer duty quite a bit, so those figures would have been even more stark a little while ago.
Well,
We've tried to work on that. Yeah, absolutely. You know, there's a pub boarded up in my place, which some people are saying was a good thing, that they've got a car wash there. You know, one of these random car washes.
A car wash?
Because it will sort out the security of the pub. I mean, crikey, if we've got to that, we really are in a sad state about pubs.
I mean, Sean, after the pandemic, where pubs had to shut their doors, I had a local pub near me, and they were doing everything they possibly could to make money within all the rules and regulations. They had a sort of a drive-by where you could pick up a pint in a plastic cup. They were even doing little takeaway frozen margaritas to take with you. Pub landlords are trying to do everything they can to keep their doors open, and we, outrageously, have the highest beer duty in Europe.
I agree that it's outrageous and ridiculous. Unfortunately, notwithstanding that it's been frozen a bit, not cut, but frozen for 3 or 4 years, this is never going to change, is it? Like, governments, not Tory governments, not Labour governments, not even Nigel Beer Drinker Farage's Reform government, governments do not significantly cut a duty like this.
It's an easy way to hide a tax take, isn't it?
It's never, ever going to happen.
And they hide behind our politicians, and correct me if I'm wrong, but to me, our politicians hide behind the public health argument, Paul.
Yeah.
For example, in Scotland, with all these additional taxes on alcohol, because to try and combat alcoholism and problem drinking, but the problem is, it doesn't actually do that.
Of course it doesn't, no. The minimum
because people who are problem drinkers will continue to buy booze they'll just find cheaper.
The problem is, over the last couple of decades, government has been expanding its remit, and so it's going now into the bigger government, it's going into the nanny state, minimum alcohol pricing, as you rightly say, in Scotland that they brought in, you know, the sugar tax and other things as well, looking after. Just let us trust ourselves, give us education, so we're educating people, but let us make our own decisions.
Well, why didn't you tell, you know, Boris Johnson and everyone that, Paul?
Well, this is what I was trying to do.
Chief nanny state.
As hospitality minister, I was trying to do exactly that.
It did feel like, you know, when Boris Johnson went on his health kick, he indulged the public health lobby a little bit too much. Sean, where do you stand on the old nanny state then?
So I'm opposed to the nanny state. I'm definitely at the libertarian end of the Labour spectrum, and I do think that we should separate out the health question from the tax question. But I also do think, so I don't drink. I haven't drunk for 20 years because I used to drink all the time.
Well, congratulations. That's no easy feat.
But we should actually be having a grown-up, sensible conversation about the way that we drink as a country. I completely agree about pubs. I live in the countryside now, where the local pub is a really important part of the community. But that doesn't mean that alcohol is a pure good thing. And that's all it is. There are a lot of problems.
There are, absolutely there are. Just quickly, my producer in my ear has said we have some footage of something to show. Is that right? Yes? No? Maybe? But some statistics that, here we go. Here are the crowds in Munich getting ready for that match tonight. How will Scotland do? I mean, I've got a Scottish family, so I'm rooting for Scotland up until the point where it's Scotland beat England. Then I will have to go for the England. There you go. I'm not sure what this chap is doing here, but he looks excited. But there you go. The Tartan Army. The Tartan Army. 200,000, apparently, football fans from Scotland arriving in Munich.
No way.
What's the duty in Germany?
The duty in Germany, well, it says here that the United Kingdom pays 12 times more beer tax than Germany, which is crazy. Germany, I don't know exactly how much p, but it must be something like 5p.
Fortunately for the Germans, the Scottish drink 12 times as much.
Yes, so they'll make up the lost change.
But if you look at all those countries that are paying much, much less for their alcohol, you'll find that the rate of alcohol-related problems in those countries is much, much less too.
Yes, yes.
And why is that? We need to understand that. We need to fix both problems at the same time.
And
in
Scotland,
this country.
particularly bad when it comes to drink deaths. And they keep slapping these extra costs on beer and booze and whatever else, and it doesn't seem to be making a difference. But let me know what you think. gbnews.com/your say. We'll be reading some messages very soon indeed. But coming up, we'll be making a toast to the Princess of Wales. Please do join us as we open Dewberry's Tavern. It is a pub that's still open.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Today we've got two fantastic individuals who have invented a teddy bear to help children who are suffering with mental health.
Yes, so Lynn and Samantha Crilly came up with the idea for the Trouble Muncher toy following Samantha's own battle with an eating disorder and OCD.
Yes, the teddy comes with a notepad and encourages its owners to write down what's troubling them, and then they can pop the note into the rucksack on the bear's back.
I struggled with mental health most of my life, actually, and oh no, it's fine. I've got one. I feel quite sorry for you. But and one thing I always did was message my mum, and it was a thought disassociation kind of technique. I would message you. Even now, I message you thoughts that come into my mind, but massively when I was younger. And I thought, what happens if you're younger and you don't have this?
Yeah, and I think in today's technology-fueled world, I think we go back to basics, and it just helps them to process by writing it down. Everything's so instant these days.
So it's like an indirect way of telling your parents how you're feeling, what you're going through. Such a great idea. What's the feedback been from parents who have got a Trouble Muncher for their kids? What you've got any stories?
It's been really good. In one household, he sits on the kitchen side, and I think during the day, the parents, the children put their worries in, or at night, and then they know that their parents will look at it during the day. And it's gone into some schools as well. You'd imagine you'd want one of these Trouble Munchers in every classroom and in every school up and down the country, because children who are being bullied, for example, who feel like they can't tell their parents, they're too embarrassed to talk about it. This is such an important tool, isn't it, for children to communicate that.
Yeah, well, you were saying Mum's a mental health counsellor, and you had a young child who had Snapchat AI. So you talk to an AI in Snapchat, and that's what they talk to now.
The People's Channel.
It's midday. Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. Are you comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister?
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
GB News is Britain's election channel.
And when the big stories break, we're tackling them on Britain's newsroom. When we disagree, and we disagree a lot, it's even livelier than normal.
We don't disagree that much.
We do.
His comedy, though, is revolting. I knew her, and unlike you.
That explains Beverly Turner's temperament.
It's a bit frothy in here, isn't it?
You'll have one of me one day.
For dartball practice.
Britain's newsroom on GB News, weekdays, 9:30 a.m.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Right, well, thank you for joining me this evening on Jeeves & Co. I'm Emily Carver. Keeping me company still until 7 o'clock is the former Conservative MP Paul Scully and the former Labour MP Sean Simon. Now, if you're just joining, at the start of this programme, we received the quite brilliant news that the Princess of Wales, Catherine, will be attending Trooping the Colour tomorrow. So she'll be seen in public for the first time at a royal public engagement since before Christmas. So it's been months and months and months that we haven't seen her. There's been huge speculation about her health and will we see her, won't we see her? She sent that message, didn't she, a few months ago when she was in her garden, looking a little bit weary. So it's fantastic news that she will be there tomorrow. We'll see her there on the balcony at Buckingham Palace when the RAF have their fly past. There she is, looking up into the sky out there on the Windsor estate, I believe it is, and she's just perched, leaning back on that tree trunk there in nature, in a rather smart casual outfit, I'd say. So there she is, a bit more colour in her cheeks. So lovely news from Kensington Palace. It was accompanied by a lovely personal message where she spoke about she thanked everyone, essentially, for their continued understanding and all of those who've shared their stories with her and how much she's appreciated all the support and encouragement. And there's been a lot of support and encouragement coming from the inbox, that's for sure. June says, brilliant news, fabulous photo of her. David says, yes, wonderful, pick me up, great news from our palace. Marlene, so happy about the news. Catherine, been at Trooping of the Colour, I am buzzing. She says, I've been through cancer myself, it's not easy. She looks good. What a fab photo. Yes, I'm sure some of you will be able to empathise with what she's going through at the moment. She spoke about how she has some good days, but she has a lot of bad days too. So it's about being patient at times of uncertainty, particularly when it comes to health matters. But yes, a drink has appeared because it is Jube's Tavern, Paul and Sean. So cheers. Let's do a nice cheers. Yeah. Come on, there's so much doom and gloom in the world. And this is lovely news. So cheers, Paul.
Cheers, cheers, cheers.
Cheers. Oh, yes, why not? You've got a Guinness. Yeah, there you go. A little bit more healthy over here.
Cheers,
Sean. But yes, really, really lovely, because regardless of what side you are when it comes to politics, whatever party you support, whatever you're voting for, this is the sort of thing that, you know what, no one can be mean about, no one can be nasty about, Paul. It's just nice news.
Absolutely. You know, I'm not sure the nation's blood pressure can take the next 2 weeks of a general election when everyone's saying, Rishi saying, doom and gloom when the Labour Party get in, Labour Party saying, well, let's get rid of the Tories. It's all about negativity.
It is.
But what actually I took from the letter that the Princess of Wales had, there was a sense of hope. It's not just her personal hope and aspiration for her recovering, but it's actually sharing with other people. If you're in a situation, you can get out of it. That's the positivity I like, and that's what I'm drinking to.
And Sean, I don't know what your views are on the royal family, but this is the sort of thing that can actually unite people a little bit, you know?
As you said, no right-thinking, decent person could be anything other than pleased and feel warm and happy about it. And it's one of those many occasions when it's useful to be Welsh. I said Iechyd as we say, which means good health.
Iechyd.
Iechyd. Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Are you fluent in Welsh? Of course you are.
I'm not fluent, no, but I'm getting more fluent all the time.
Getting more fluent. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. OK, there you go. Can you speak any Welsh, Paul?
No, I do know Iechyd, but that's about all.
Iechyd, well, there you go. But yes, the Princess of Wales will be tomorrow, and I should say that we're going to have a fantastic special show tomorrow. I believe it is with Andrew Pearce, who's not usually on at the weekends, and also Ellie Costello, who's did some fantastic coverage from the D-Day commemorations over in Normandy, and she'll be back tomorrow with Andrew Pearce, taking you through everything that goes on with the Trooping the Colour. Of course, we'll also be seeing the King, we'll be seeing the Queen Camilla, we'll also be seeing Prince William. He'll be on horseback as well, but Catherine we're expecting to see in a carriage and also there on the balcony for the RAF flypast. So wonderful news to begin the weekend. Thank you very much for sharing it with us, Sean Simon and Paul Scully. Fantastic job this evening, and I wish everyone at home a fantastic weekend, whatever you're up to. Maybe you're going down to Buckingham Palace to see all the celebrations there, but if not, have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. That's it from me, Emily Carver. This is Jubes & Co.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. Further showers are expected over the next 24 hours and beyond, with prolonged rain at times, but also some clear spells in between the downpours. Low pressure is currently stationed to the west-northwest of Scotland, and around that low we've got a gusty wind bringing frequent showers into much of the UK, but also some longer spells of rain. One such area of rain affecting northern Scotland through the evening, and then another band of rain pushing into Northern Ireland, parts of Wales and the southwest during the early hours. So a lively night to come with some heavy rain at times and that gusty wind, but some clear spells as well. And where we've got the clear spells, temperatures dipping into the single figures or even the mid-single figures in some of the cooler spots, for example, central Scotland. But for the north of Scotland, we keep the wet weather going on Saturday morning, particularly for Shetland. Some outbreaks of rain there for Orkney. But for much of the mainland of Scotland, it's dry. Best of the sunshine of the day will be in the morning on Saturday. Thicker cloud into southern Scotland, northern England, and this band of rain just affecting parts of Northern Ireland, into the Midlands, the southeast as well. Some heavy downpours before a mix of sunny spells and blustery showers push into South Wales and the southwest of England. That develops more widely across the UK, so really it's a case of bright spells and heavy showers out there on Saturday afternoon. You certainly will need your umbrella at hand if you're heading out, even if it's sunny when you leave the house. But